Where do you want to see your offensive line improve on the most going into the next scrimmage?
I'd like just to really focus on some detail stuff. Pad level, hand placement. We were relatively assignment sound in the grand scheme of things there. We want to always emphasize vertical push, but those really fine detail things, talking foot placement, hat placement, hand placement, really getting down in the nitty gritty are things that we're going to hopefully take a step forward on this week.
How much can you tell in the run game at this point, camp? Because sometimes I know contact is limited and guys can't go full speed. What can you guys judge when it's not full contact in terms of how you evaluate the run game?
Sure. I guess the belief that we have in Seti Alexander, MK, and Zell, it's really those backs. I mean, you're seeing flashes from freshmen. As an offensive line coach, you love seeing those guys break loose, and it's exciting. It's exciting to see that stuff. Now, I understand your question of if we can really move the front. Our defensive line is scrappy. Our defensive line plays well together, and when we get those guys blocked up and we can get a running back loose, it's fun. It's fun for everybody to see. But we can see ourselves come together. Obviously, our technique, we know what it looks like. Our pad level, we know what it looks like. We're definitely excited about that. Our offensive line with the backs that we have coming back, as well as some young guys. So that stuff is where we think we should be able to be an effective rushing attack.
Feels like you guys have been a pretty good between the tackles running team in camp. Would you share that evaluation?
Yeah, I would. It's not perfect, and it's in camp, and there's been a lot of different lineups in there, and we're going to find the best five to go in there. But when we hand the ball off, we want to displace the line of scrimmage. That Coach K's been doing that for 40 years at a very high level. I'm fortunate enough to be working with him, and that's our standard. Our standard is to displace the defensive line vertically and allow our backs to press and find space and find walls and then puncture the defense.
You talked about the defensive line being scrappy. Just with this defensive line specifically, just what's the biggest challenge for your offensive line, you feel like?
Biggest challenge is we got to bring our A game, or that defensive line is going to make us pay. And then even if we have some success up front, you're dealing with a core of linebackers that's the best in the country, in my opinion. So that defense forces us to play good football every single day and bring our A game, or they'll expose us. And that's an encouraging part that we have to be on our details in order to have success in practice.
How is Bo Johnson integrated into the offensive line?
Bo's great. He's fantastic. Big kid. He's put on about 15 good pounds of weight. He's starting to improve all the time. That's a positive of what we have right now is we feel that we have a few tackles that can play. They're above the SEC line that can earn some reps. And it's up to Coach K and I, and then the rest of camp to continue to evaluate those guys. But Bo's a guy that's in the mix. CJ Williams is practicing the best that we've seen him. Obviously, Clinton is a fantastic frame, and when he uses technique, he's one of the best in the country. And Orion Irving's consistency and football intelligence is always going to keep him on the football field.
Can you talk more about how you've seen Clinton progress through camp?
Yeah, if you see that guy in person, obviously, he looks like a creature, and it's fun working with him because he is relatively new to football with his background in the grand scheme of a lot of guys on our roster. So the things that he is being taught and tries and is successful when he uses that technique, his God-gifted ability is going to make it look a little bit prettier when he's really emphasizing that technique. So it's just up to him understanding the game. The game slows down a little bit for him, and when he uses great technique, he's very, very tough to beat.
When you guys first started recruiting him before you transferred over from Northern Arizona, I guess outside of his size, what is it that stood out about Clinton?
His athleticism. When I talked to him, his story, how far he had come and stuck with football. He was originally at the NFL Academy, and we have a great relationship with those guys up there. They had nothing but great things to say about him. I could tell that he was very driven. He'd kind of been a lone wolf, so to speak, as somebody that's found his way here through football. I respected that. I respected his maturity, and just watching him be coachable, play the game the right way, and continue to improve. That's the best part is he sees himself using technique, and he's extremely, extremely good, and it looks very consistent. And that's causing him to use it more and more, and he is improving.
You just said he was kind of a lone wolf there. Can
Yeah.
you elaborate on that a bit, please?
Yeah, just kind of his background. I don't want to share too much of what his background is, but born in Nigeria, ended up moving to the UK, was a defensive end, played defensive end. It was a basketball kid, then a defensive end. Steve Hagan, who's in charge of that NFL academy, moved him to tackle. That's where he kind of got some interest from schools here in the States and ended up at Northern Arizona. That's what I mean by that. Just an interesting road of taking care of himself. Just not your average two-parent or even one-parent household going through his football process.
So he was completely on his own? Or
As far as
you said you
yeah, I'm saying so. Yeah, when he born in Nigeria, moved to the UK. They have the NFL academies in like a dorm style living,
Okay.
which is unique. And then obviously totally by himself.
Yeah.
Nobody even in the country for him at Northern Arizona. That's what I mean by that.